Call to order the Torrington Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting for Wednesday, December 16th, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Brogus. Welcome. Ms. Capabianca. Here. Ms. Hona here. Mr. Knight. Here. Mr. Lemoyne.
Here.
Mr. Nargi.
Here.
Ms. Richardson. Here. Mr. Tebow.
Here.
Mr. Traub.
Here.
Mr. Vigero.
Here.
Welcome. Mayor Carbone not here. Mr. Becerra.
Here.
Mr. Campolita.
Here.
Ms. LaChance. Here. Ms. Lebowski.
Here.
Ms. Reitman.
Here.
Good.
Well done.
Thank you. School community session. The board invites members of the community to speak on topics to be addressed in the agenda or on other topics of interest. Individuals wishing to make comments are requested to fill out the speaker sign-up sheet, including your name and address, which must also be stated at the beginning of your comment. The board will not allow comments regarding specific staff members or personal grievances. Courtesy is expected in this limited public forum. Participating time will be limited to 3 minutes per person and 10 minutes overall. We have none. Welcome to new board members. We'd like to welcome our two new board members. We have Dr. Joanne Brogus. She is retired as an assistant principal from the Torrington Public Schools in 2011 with 32 years from the U.S. Air Force Reserve as a 32 years of experience, I'm sorry, and the U.S. Air Force Reserve as a lieutenant colonel. She retired in 2011 with 30 years. She continues to interview potential candidates for the U.S. Air Force Academy. She served on 4 NEASC evaluation committees. She was a delegate to the College Board and was a member of the Connecticut Association of School Board of Directors. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we have P.J. Vigaro. He was a THS graduate in 1974, an Air Force Academy graduate. Did she interview you? A retired lieutenant colonel from the Connecticut Air National Guard with over 2,000 hours in an A-10. Master's degree in management, 7 years as a substitute teacher, and 8 years as a math teacher at Torrington High School. He is currently a math teacher at Pompano High School. Welcome. Now, I passed out to everyone's seat a letter that I had received from the past superintendent, Cheryl Klocko, and it's a summary of accomplishments of the last 4 years. I think it could be used as a good guide to see all of that has been accomplished in Torrington in the last 4 years, and a yardstick for you guys to work going forward. I think the board has been a big part of the accomplishments that are on this list. We may not all agree with all of them because we may not have voted for them, but as a board, they all did pass. And I think that the 2 board members that aren't with us anymore because they resigned have left big shoes for you to fill because they worked very hard on these, as did the rest of the board. And I think that's a compliment to all of us. Our next item is an action item for elections. I'd just like to add a comment of, right now we need to gain continue some stability in this district. We have an interim superintendent, we have an interim business manager, we have an interim director of student services, we have an accountant that's been with us for a few months. I think that I would like to make a recommendation that the board leadership continue. A little sales plug, I guess, because I think we need some stability going forward. We have a lot of things we have to address in the next 6 months, and I think we need some continuity and some people that know the road. But we will open nominations for election for board chair.
I would like to nominate Ken Traub.
Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Fiona Capiano.
Second.
Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Peter.
Do we accept or decline it then?
You are more than welcome to decline if you so choose.
I really do appreciate it, but
Okay.
I think that a fine member of the board is, two fine members of the board, one who served very well in the past, and another potential carrying this forward have already been nominated. Thank you.
Do we have any other nominations? I think I'm supposed to say it 3 times, right?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations? I think that's 2. Are there any other nominations?
I move nominations be closed.
Okay. Moved by Bill to close nominations.
Second.
By Jim. Okay. We can go around the table. You can cast your vote. However you'd like to go. Start with you, Peter.
I'll cast my vote for Ms. Capabianco.
Dan.
Mr. Trout.
Joanne.
Ms. Capabianco.
Andrew.
I'll stick with Mr. Trout.
Bill.
Ms. Capabianco.
Jess. Jim.
Fiona.
Ellen. Fiona.
I'm
You can vote. It doesn't matter. Okay. I will move. The rest of the meeting is yours. Congratulations. Clap.
I'd like to accept any nominations for election of board vice chair.
I nominate Jess.
A second.
Any other nominations?
I'll give you a second.
Second. Okay. Any other nominations? Nominations closed.
So moved.
Nominations closed.
Any other
I
nominations?
accept any other nomination. Learning. Nominations are closed.
I move they be closed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Richardson.
Mr. Trout.
Ms. Richardson.
Ms. Richards. See, I'm over here.
Andrew?
Richardson.
Jess. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't call me.
Jess? Ellen? Okay. Jess? Jess for vice chair?
Jess.
Now accept nominations for board secretary.
I nominate Ellen.
I'll second.
Is there any other nominations?
Yeah, I'll nominate Joanne.
Unfortunately, I'm very new. I would love in the year to be in the leadership position, but since this is my first meeting, I don't even know if I can get a second. So, because I don't have the experience being on the board, although I have been on the board for 8 years in Region 6. So at this point, I would decline, but in the future, I definitely would like to see the position.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll do another nomination. I'll nominate Kim.
I'll decline.
Mr. Lemoyne. Okay, I guess I've got everyone here, so, okay.
I'm sorry, I heard Bill and Jim, who did they nominate?
Ellen.
I'll nominate Mr. Nergy.
I'll second it.
There we go.
Do you accept?
No, I reject.
Is there any other?
Nominate PJ.
Step up.
I'll leave my name in for that. Although I think Ellen has done a fine job and continued to, and has the experience. I'm not sure, I might not vote for her myself, but I will accept the nomination. Let's start at the other end of the table.
Do we have a second for that nomination?
I second. Or did I nominate?
You nominated.
I'll
Yeah,
second.
okay.
Okay, is there any other nominations? Any other nominations?
Sorry. Peter was nominated by Jess and seconded by Andrew?
No.
No.
Andrew nominated.
No.
Andrew
He
nominated?
Jess
I second
nominated.
it.
Oh, okay, and then I second.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm sorry.
So are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations?
Move the big close.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I abstain? I'll let the board decide.
You can. Dan?
Ellen.
Andrew?
What do you forgot?
Oh, Ken, I'm sorry.
Ellen?
Andrew?
Peter?
Bill?
Ellen.
Ellen?
Jess?
I'm gonna vote for PJ just because I nominated him, but I am.
Approval of agenda. And a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Information sharing session, superintendent's report.
Okay, first thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was that the THS football team had one of its most successful seasons. They finished this year with an overall record of 9 wins and 1 loss. They made the playoffs in their class for the first time since 1983. And they hosted the home game against Weathersfield High School. Obviously, the outcome wasn't what we would have liked to have happened, but we wanted to make sure that we recognize the team and the coaches for their success. Coach Rodriguez and the rest of the coaching staff, along with the support of the boosters and families, should all be applauded for their hard work and dedication to the student athletes. I want to congratulate our high school Raiders. And also, receiving congratulations tonight is the high school marching band. They had another award winning. They won again the best overall unit in the Bristol Mums Parade. That's the second time in 3 years. The best overall award is the highest honor in that parade. They also received first place best appearing high school band in the 2015 North Adams Mass Fall Foliage Parade for the 5th year in a row. And we are at present awaiting information on our standing as one of the best communities for music again, which would be, again, another major honor for us. And I did want to report, I'm going to assume that people saw this, a picture of Mrs. Creedon, dressed in her sun outfit. We attended, Dan and Mr. Kisco and Mr. Pacetta and I all attended the opening of the Forbes Solar Project. All of the students sang, they performed. It was a very nicely put together celebration of the Forbes Solar Project. I'm not as familiar with the mechanics of it, so that, Dan, if you'd like to share a little bit about that. I mean, I know that you know something more about that than I do. It's your baby.
The entire project as a whole was very unique. We started by looking at the fact that we need to upgrade the boilers at the building. And then the fact the roof was 30 years old and it was time to replace the roof. At the same time we were doing that, we figured what we could get for an energy rebate from the state of Connecticut for upgrading the lighting. So we ended up with more energy efficient boilers. We reduced the lighting by 40% in the amount of usage. and then we added the solar onto the roof. So they come with a 25-year warranty on all the parts, all the replacements, guarantees, and we bought it, we didn't lease it. So after about 4 years of usage of the system, it starts paying itself 100% back as a positive to us. The nice thing is that allows us to mitigate the roughly 30% increase that CLP has offered everybody for this coming year. So it's not going to reduce costs in the long term, but it will mitigate the cost in the long term, which is fantastic. The overall project as a whole was a huge success. And we ended up with the latest in technology from solar with integrated transformers on each individual panel. So as the panel makes power, it gets converted from DC power to AC power right at the panel itself. So you have virtually little to no loss of the actual photoelectric portion of it. Okay, I geeked out enough.
Never. Okay, the lunch policy review, we have seen a decrease in the number of issues that we're having, although we did have one, I believe, at Torringford where there was an old register that wasn't working properly, and so it wasn't recording who actually owed money. So Holly Lavavera, who is our Education Connection head of our food services, decided that she temporarily suspended the policy so that nobody was getting the incorrect lunch. So we know that there's still some glitches, we know that we're still having some problems and trying to make sure that it's done as well as it can be, but we are addressing them as they come up, and we have seen a drop off in the number of issues.
Saves me from bringing up an issue I'm still hearing about it from at Thornwood.
Yeah, we are addressing it, we do know that we still have some glitches, but it's something we're going to have to own is that it is an unpopular policy from the get-go, and we're trying to do it in as sensitive a way as we possibly can. It doesn't mean it's always done 100% in a way that all the children understand it and are dealing with it well, but as we see issues, we're trying to address them to make sure that the problems don't continue and at least address them in the best way we can.
Part of the issues that I'm hearing, I'm sorry to interrupt your report on it.
It's okay, if you have more information, I'd be happy to hear
Oh,
it.
what I'm hearing is that parents would be more than happy to send in money to make sure that there's money in their child's account, but they don't know that their account is low or in debt for whatever reason, and I don't know what the reason is. Information is not getting to the parents.
Okay, we will double check that. I know we did have an issue with that a while back, but it's my understanding that we did address that to make sure that the systems that needed to talk to one another to get that information out to the parents had been fixed.
It's
So,
my understanding that's not well, at least in some cases, that's not happening.
okay.
Also, during the election process, I went around and talked to some administrators, just so that I could get a feel at the elementary level of my lack of experience levels. And I heard that from people that the policy went through the food service managers rather than through the administrators at the buildings. So that the administrators at the buildings were sometimes out of the loop on implementation time and the policy. So what I got from them was a lack of feeling that they got a real good input or say in how the policy was implemented. I have agonized about this for hours, talked to dozens of people. I understand that there's got to be some skin in the game, that at some point you have to ask parents to stand up, either fill out the paperwork for the free lunch, pay the $2.50 for the reduced lunch, or pay their bill. I'm just wondering, is there any way that we can use, the only thing I could come up with, is there any way that we can program our email blast, or how we get the phone messages on school closings and such? Can that be targeted to parents who are behind on payments so that they get information that they're going to be behind? I have no idea about the flexibility of that information program.
I don't want to give you a wrong answer,
Do we
so.
know?
Ellen, you have information on that?
I'm the chair of policy and spent many hours with the food service person, the administrators in the buildings, superintendent, other members of the board. We rewrote the policy because the original one wasn't working, because it was my firm belief that no child should be the tray taken away and given a cheese sandwich. So the policy was that every child would get a lunch, no matter if their account was low or not.
Is that unlimited, what they get a lunch, or 2 times, or?
It was supposed to be addressed by the food service manager, that they would first write a letter, then give a phone call, but the food service entity would contact the family, so that it wasn't taken out on the child in line, that here, you can't have that because your parents didn't pay. Give me that food, which they have to throw away, and here's a cheese sandwich, or an alternate lunch.
Can we follow
That's
up
what I
to
heard,
see-
I've heard from administrators that that's exactly what's happening. So,
I heard that that was happening again. I addressed it again. I was assured it wasn't happening again. I have also.
Well, I can tell you that it is.
Okay,
yeah, so we're getting some disconnect from,
Correct, so.
We've addressed it once, let me do that again, because we did address it with all of the administrators and all the cafeteria managers. And the explanations that I got as to the ways that it was being handled at the schools was not what I'm hearing now. So let me
Right,
please
so
double check that.
I'm in the process of coordinating with the administrators to go into every school and see how it's going. We were thinking to have the flow go the other way. So when they first come in,
yes.
pay first, but we have to look at each school to see if that will work, and I'm willing to meet with all the administrators in every building. Haven't gotten there yet.
Can I
Can
add?
I just, Ken,
Oh, sorry.
and then I'll come back to you.
The lunch manager at each building, do they report to the principal of that building, the administrator of that building? Where does the administrator fit in the food chain of authority when it comes to that?
The cafeteria manager is the only cafeteria person that I understand reports, that works for Education Connections.
They're directly supervised by Ed Connection, they're Ed Connection employees.
Right, but they
Half
are
workers
responsible.
are employees,
Right.
but they do, they are responsible, I mean, they're not supervised by the principal, but it's understood that the principal runs the building. And they're involved in
And I would assume that the principal in charge of that building, if they're unhappy with the way it's running, can change that.
Yes,
And they can enforce that, so it
Yes.
doesn't need to come to a board level, that's an administrative level issue.
yes.
The policy's pretty clear.
I just want to say this, and I know your style, and experience it, and I'm really happy, but please, when you go back to the administrators, make sure that the tone is that it's thankful that they're willing to talk, that they're, willing to bring up issues and not that they're talking out of school. That's really important. That we
Absolutely.
set a tone that administrators, teachers can feel free to come forward with their ideas, or else we can't make effective decisions.
Absolutely.
And that flows directly from you.
And we've stressed that at the policy level, also, or policy committee.
I just have talked to many people in the district, as employees of the district, and that feeling, I hear walking on eggshells a lot. I hear fear of retribution a lot. I think the tone is not what we wanted in the district. And I can tell you from being on the other side that the free flow of ideas has not been there for the last couple of years. So if you think at this level that we have a free and open employee, employees feeling like they're comfortable here, you've been misinformed. It is not like that in the trenches. And just tonight, I talked to a teacher that said, I feel like I have to walk on eggshells. Just tonight. So I You know, I'm just bringing you the attitude that I have current experience here. I think that needs to change, and that's one of my goals. Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. But we've had discussions, and we're on the same page, I understand.
And I'm hoping that by having teachers and paras on some of our subcommittees, that's gonna help that a little bit.
Isn't that in line with one of our board goals? One of the new goals, I think, one that Mr. Knight wrote?
Yes.
About increasing communication with parents and teachers and all of that.
It's always been there, it just needs to be out there more.
Yeah, we just need to say it
Right.
more.
Say
We
it
need to
more.
say it in public, we need to let the public know, we need to let the teachers know. Yeah, it's part of the process.
The last thing I wanted to mention is we have gotten several letters from members of the community congratulating the schools and the junior ROTC on the Veterans Day celebrations, which I was lucky enough to be able to get to the one at the high school. But we talked to several people who were talking specifically about the presentations that were done at the elementary schools. And I have heard nothing but wonderful comments about the comportment of the cadets and the participation of the students at the schools, and that our community members were very proud and very pleased that we were honoring our vets in such a way in all of our schools in such an appropriate and meaningful way. So just wanted to make sure that we recognize the hard work of Lieutenant Colonel Studley and pulling together a wonderful presentation. And also, I think I said this at one point before, some of the work that was done with very little preparation. I'm not sure what it's called, the squad of young men with the rifles. They had less than a month to prepare, and they created a staircase out of the rifles that it was scary and amazing and wonderful, and they did it with less than a month of preparation. And the young man who played the bagpipes had been doing so for less than 6 months. So they really did with very little preparation. They showed what wonderful things they can do, and we're very proud of them.
It's a rifle team, and they'll probably go to competition with that, would do very well with that.
Yeah, they were great.
That's great.
It was scary. I wouldn't have been the one on top of that top rifle, but they was really impressive. So,
Board clerk, and I'm actually gonna turn this over to Mr. Traub, because I'm not exactly.
We have a new board clerk, Heather. I think she went around and met everybody before the meeting today. No, she's-
Look at that smile on Michael's face.
She'll be set up with an email address that'll go to everybody, I'm sure, and welcome.
Thank you.
Just want to thank Michael for his willingness to come in and she's done some training and also to be here and help Heather to get acclimated. This is a rather daunting responsibility, and I just want to publicly say thank you for being willing to come in and help us out. Thank you.
2015-16 budget adjustment review.
Okay, there is one sheet. And the process that we went through, we got over this with the full budget committee, and it took quite a long time to get through every single item. We went through each item individually. But I just wanted to bring you up to speed as to what our process was and how we got to where we are right now. Bottom line is that if we do these adjustments, we will be where we need to be for the 2015-16 budget. And
I'm sorry, Linda, I'm not sure what we're talking about.
this is the budget transfers to make sure that we have everything funded in the 2015-16 budget that should be.
I'm sure Deanna said that, but I didn't hear her.
Okay. The first thing that we had done is, as you know, we talked about this at previous meetings, is that we built a salary schedule to make sure that we had all of the salaries reported in the correct site. That's done. We have everything broken out on the salary schedule by not only site, but who's paid through entitlement, who's paid through Medicaid. Everything is done exactly the way it should be and balances to the budget performance report. So we're very pleased that we're able to get to that point. as we started doing some other things and trying to figure other things out, we found that there were things that had not been budgeted. And the only thing I have to offer is that things did not get posted as they should have, accounts that should have been funded were not, funds that were supposed to go to one line item were put into another line item. And so Susan and Erica Johnson and Mike Duva, our new accountant, and I have been working to really see, okay, what has to happen? We did all of our accounts, if we do these general budget transfers, will be properly funded as they're supposed to be. There were some things that we had to fund that were not in the original budget, but because of other circumstances, we had to make decisions as to what actually had to happen. One of the ones that's going to stand out is going to be the fact that we had to fund technicians. We're missing 2 technicians, the ones that are paid for by the board. And so Mr. Luna is providing us with technicians at $6,000 per month per technician. That gets us the number, the 4 that we're supposed to have by contract, 2 provided by Protect Harbor, 2 provided by the board. So that is something that had to be funded. I don't know if you've all had a chance to look at these and if you have specific questions. I know that we did go through these item by item by item at the budget meeting. We did make a couple of changes based on input from the budget committee members. So it's at your pleasure. I can go through these one more time again, or you can ask me specific questions. So it's really at the board's pleasure how you'd like to proceed.
Is there an effect on the bottom line, or is each just line transfers?
These are line transfers. The budget amount is still, was it $70,567,467 is our budget number. We're gonna play those numbers in the lottery. We have not changed the amount that was budgeted at all. This is just to make sure that we have things funded that needed to be funded. The information on the left-hand side are the funding sources. These are the accounts that we felt that we could either eliminate, take from, make changes. You will notice down in capital that in order to be able to provide $238,000 towards our special education deficit, that we're proposing that we give up all capital technology improvements for this year and move them into next year, next fiscal year. Do we want to do that? No, but as I've said to the staff, and said to all, I sent an email out, if there's not money in the checkbook, you can't write checks. And we need money to fund our special education, so this was a very painful sacrifice that we're willing to make. We don't want to. I want it to be very clear that we do not want to give up our technology. We want to move our children forward. However, again, if there's no money in the checkbook, we can't write checks. So everything on the left-hand side are sources of funding that we feel that we could use to fund what we must fund. Some of them are budgeting errors. Some of them were unexpected costs. The 2 that I just want you to see down at the bottom, they're shaded. On mine, they're shaded. I don't know if it's on yours. It says teachers for Fund 6 Class PE and then Fund UConn ECE. Those transfers were done as part of the staffing transfers that were done and approved by the board previously. So they're not included. We just wanted, the budget chair wanted us to include them for your information, so you can see that those transfers had already been done.
And just for clarification on that, those were positions that were added after the budget. So we wanted everyone to see that they were added an additional period of PE at the middle school. So in total, it's fine, but I wanted everyone to see what positions were added that we didn't approve back in June.
A couple of questions. You probably explained this already, but first one, early retirement, correct funding for 122,000 plus. What exactly is that? I mean, early retirement? I mean, it goes for 1 year, how many years back is it that we're talking about?
I don't know, that's the amount that was supposed to, but,
Right, and it's contractually, it would be, depending on the contract, 10 years from when they retire. So it's a package. So the people that we have on that early retirement who took the package would be receiving funds over a period of time. So there's a certain amount, and that was underfunded. So we need to make sure that we put money into that account to fund it.
Did you break down that list to the budget committee or whoever?
So, last year in the spring, I went before the Board of Finance for that exact number. That was unfunded, that the Board of Finance pointed out after the DOE submitted our budget. We made transfers to cover that cost last year. That was all broken down and given to us in the spring, back in May. What happened is those transfers never got posted to New World when we started the year. So we already made the adjustment to cover that. It was a $782,000 adjustment to cover early retirement and the 403B contributions. That just never got recorded in the business office at Midgeon Avenue. So this is to show that that money is there. This is to actually make those line item transfers that we had promised the Board of Finance last spring.
For this 2015-16 budget year?
Yeah.
But is there still some list of the recipients of, if I was to look at a picture of the people that are owed money, this money to see who this picture is that picture available to be looked at?
Sure.
Yes, if you want to see who's receiving early retirement payouts?
Yeah, how
Yes.
far we're, just what that picture of this money
Yes.
actually is.
it was only teachers on contract for a certain year, sometime in the 1980s it was. So it should phase out eventually because it's no longer current.
Well, yeah, that's why I kind of like to see what that
Yeah,
picture is,
yeah.
or the present status.
I
And
understand.
and then the second question I had is, the Latin teacher, we budgeted for, didn't we?
Yes,
And we didn't hire a Latin teacher, right?
right.
So are we showing that anywhere in this?
That was in the original salary. The salary ones that were voted on before,
Okay, so you made the
we
adjustment.
made the adjustment. We left in the money for the online program. And I just want it to be very clear that we did post for it. We did not have any certified candidates, not even the one who was with us last year. So we left it open for as long as we could, and then when we were looking at funding sources and making sure that we had, for example, if you look at the funding for the teachers, the sixth class, $49,000 there, $34,000 for the UConn ECE. We had budgeted $81,000 initially for the Latin teacher. So eliminating part of that provided a great deal of funding for these things that we did need to have. But the problem was that we never did get a certified teacher applying. And at that point, I know that it was something that was included in the budget, but not having a certified teacher and also having the fact that we had the same results on the National Latin exam with an online program as we had with a teacher in the classroom, we made a decision that this was not the year to try to fund an $81,000 position for 10 students.
Did we net out, what was the net out on that whole, from giving the elimination of the actual teacher to doing it online? What was the?
The online is, I'm trying to think what the bill was, because I processed it before I left the high school last year. I believe it was approximately a little over $5,000 total
So that was approximate $75,000 savings.
savings, yes.
And the last question on that subject is the number of students who are taking Latin this year. Is it increase, decrease, stay the same as from last year? You know?
I think it's a couple smaller because we had one who finished 2 years of Latin in 1 year, so she finished 3 and 4 in 1 year, so she's no longer taking the class. We anticipated she would. One young man opted to move to Italian 4, so he dropped, but we did add a couple, we have, I think it's about the same, I think we have 11, plus we're doing one at the middle school. We have one student in the middle school who is taking Latin online, and from talking to his mom, he's on track to possibly finish 2 years of Latin at the middle school, because he's doing it online. So he'll come to us with 2 credits in Latin.
Okay, thank you.
Question on Latin, is this a short-term solution or long-term to do online?
At this point, I'm gonna say, since we're not finding anybody certified who's come forward,
Probably
it's
won't.
probably a long-term solution for us. And looking at other schools in the area, they are also doing it online. So it's a possibility.
It's not a spoken language per se.
Right, and it's possible, one of the things we looked at, there's a couple of schools that are actually doing distance learning, and we could combine with them and do a distance learning. But for right now, the company that we're using provides a Latin teacher who is local. She's in Trumbull. She's fantastic. She's very responsive. She's here. She comes up to meet with the students when needed. It's a phone call that they can make very easily. It used to be that we had the teacher that was doing the online was in a different time zone, which didn't work out for us. We had to be very careful when we scheduled the class to make sure that they could communicate by telephone. At this point, I'm looking at it as more than likely a long-term solution, that it's an online program in some way, shape, or form.
3 of my children completed Latin before, and I highly think it's a valuable education.
So that's where we are with Latin at this point.
I know it's a little bit off the subject, which is, as far as doing the class online, is there any, how do we get around the union concept of a teacher with a course being supervising this class?
It's a duty.
Pardon?
It's a duty. It's not a class. It's a duty.
What do you mean?
I mean, like, for example, instead of hall duty, instead of a study hall, this person is in the language lab with the students, and basically they have no teaching responsibility, they have no planning responsibility. What they do is they take the grades, for example, from the online teacher, and they input them into PowerSchool. That's their responsibility, and that's the duty. There's no planning involved, there's no teaching involved. The only thing they're doing is they're facilitating. If there's a problem with the computer, they're contacting the techs. If the students need to contact the online teacher by phone for an oral exam, they facilitate that and make sure that the student is set up with a phone contact to be able to get access to a telephone. And they enter the grades into PowerSchool, but they have no responsibility for correcting papers, creating lesson plans. That is all done by the online teacher.
And just over the years, in talking with teachers who was having a discussion with them, they've always given me the impression that students who take classes have to have those grades issued by a teacher.
The grade is issued. The teacher that we have, the online teacher, is a certified Latin teacher.
Okay.
So she is the one who is giving the grade. She is the one who is grading the assignments. She's the one who's reading their writing. She is the one who's administering the oral exams. She is the one who is administering the final the exams, all of the exams that have to do with the test, with the course. So the teacher who is the online teacher, who works for the online high school, is certified in Latin. She is doing all the grading, she is doing all the planning, she is doing all of the review of the work. Our teachers are simply doing it as a duty to record the information. It's kind of a study hall on steroids, if you will.
Question on the, excuse me, Torrington Library has just introduced over 20 online classes. Is there any chance that we can partner with them and do cost sharing?
I would be more than happy to look into that.
Because if they're already paying for all these classes that are certified, we may be able to do a cost sharing to save us some knowledge too.
That's
And
a
actually
great
offer
idea.
more classes than we currently have.
And when will they be open? Are they open yet?
It's available, it's already online for them.
Okay, yeah, absolutely look into that. That would be a wonderful idea.
Just as an alternative.
capital budget 2016, 2017. Dave?
I'll just be doing the facility side of this particular budget. The capital budget, this is the one that has to be basically approved by the board. We send it to the city now, and it acts as a placeholder until we put our entire budget together for April 15th. And what I did on this, one that you have in your packet, I tried to keep the items that have to be done in there, the priority type work. For instance, the oil tank removals at the high school and the administration building on Midgeon Avenue. The ADA compliance for the B building elevator that we're still discussing with the state on that. It's not a definite, however, I still haven't got a firm answer on that one. A couple other things at the administration building that I'm proposing in the capital budget is, while we're removing that oil tank, do we want another 30-year liability on that? Or do we want to bring the gas in right from the street and change the boiler system there to a gas boiler? There's a few options that we have with that. The gas company, of course, will excavate from the street to the building, bring the gas into the building. Once we do that, though, they require a letter that says, yes, we're going to use that gas at some point. So that would have to be before I can go ahead and bring the gas in, we need to have a firm commitment that that's what we want to do. So that's just an option that I'm bringing out to the board on that. That's at the admin building. Also needs a roof. And part of the other capital, but I aimed towards the high school a little bit with some, not only the oil tank, let me just get to that right page. Some sidewalk repair.
What page is that?
This is page, I have page 15.
On the capital budget?
Yes, on my sheet.
Oh, it's correct.
Okay. We're looking at the sidewalk repair. I have softball field lighting at 165. If you go to that detail page, you'll see that we're carrying $122,000 this year in our capital budget that we held over. And that was a discussion that the board had last year, that it was brought to our attention that maybe we want lights on the softball field. So we held the project back, waiting to see if you're going to approve that. It's been, go ahead.
Just where, as far as the lighting
Yes.
is concerned, did you ever get the answer, or did I address it to you or to the board, just how many games would actually be eligible to have night lighting?
I wanted to say, Mr. McKenna did address the board on that. I thought it was it 7? Does anyone remember that?
Possible. I mean, they don't have to be played.
They don't have to be played at night either. I mean, that's their, that was, and once again, the lighting was brought up by the board, if I'm not mistaken, that they requested, you requested that, not they, you. So we did pursue those numbers. Exterior painting at the high school. It's been brought to my attention that was a request. Especially the A building in the front needs it. A lot of the black, the columns around the windows that hasn't been done in years. The music wing remodel, that's fairly new to the page here. That was forwarded to me by Mr. Boehm and I don't want to ruin his name, Swetzauser? Swetzdozer. And he's basically outgrown his room, is what he's saying. You know, the room hasn't been changed in quite a while. He now is looking at between 180 and 200 band students for 2017, 2018. And what we're looking to do there is basically we're going to remove his office inside the building, and there's a small storage room there. We're going to open up the entire half of that corridor and just give him more space, more room. So that's what that's all about. Underground fuel tank replacement, again here, we do have a 15,000 gallon tank in the ground. We have the capability of gas already here, and gas and oil is, you know, sometimes it's not a bad combination, especially this year, because oil is really reduced, you know. And window treatments, I kind of took that and spread it out over 4 years. Window treatments are basically the Venetian blinds and the blinds that we see when you drive up to the building on the inside.
Does 7,500 do the entire front of the building?
That'll do some of the classrooms, you know, they'll probably do one floor at a time. You know, we're hoping to do, you know, maybe one floor of A and B building, and then do another floor another year, or do the entire front of the building 1 year, the entire back of another year.
The entire front of the building would be
About 7,500 bucks.
7,500
Yeah,
to do the
yeah,
front?
yeah,
And that's important, that's what people drive up and see.
right.
So I think that's a good place to start.
Priority should probably be the west side of both buildings.
Okay.
Because that will cool, the heat in the afternoon is unbelievable. So the west sides of the building, so the front of the building works out really nice, especially the third floor.
Yeah, which is the west side, and then you've got the inside courtyard coming in from B building.
And then I would say the west side of B building, because the temperatures on the third floor are unbelievable.
So I don't know if there's any questions on this, if you,
The other question I had is on the Southeast School.
the Southeast School, yes.
We spoke at budget last week that we were gonna leave that in and address it during the full budget process, because the board had voted to keep that building.
Okay.
So
Do
I
you,
think
you
we
want me to
should
keep,
it
do
in.
you want me to keep it in the capital plan? I left I did leave the 2 sheets in there for Southeast School. That would be the first and second page after your total expenditure by year page. They should be in there.
What page is that? Is it on the-
Should be page, I want to say 2 and 3.
Unless the board wants to discuss now what they wanna do with that.
I thought during budget, we said to see if we can turn it back, so we can still pay for following for this year.
Right, but I think that it needs to, the full board needs to make that decision, because we already decided we were gonna keep it, so if we wanna give it back, I mean, we can certainly talk about it now, but.
I would, just to start the conversation, I would definitely like to see it being given back to the city, being the original concept of why we were, a couple years ago, looking to take it. Seems to be very distant and very unlikely it's going to be implemented any kind of in the near future, so just take it off, and at the time somebody wants to, the superintendent wants to bring it up or whatever. That would be my recommendation, not the Southeast School.
Can I ask you, Linda, is there any reason why you would want to keep it?
There's no reason I want it. I've toured it, I'm not a fan.
Okay, you know, that's just part of the philosophy of, you know, it's, yeah, so your opinion matters.
Yes, after having support it. I think that the amount of time and effort and money that it would take to make it a viable site for us, I'm not convinced that it's worth the investment.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were finished. If that's the case, although I don't do this very often, I would concur with Andrew's recommendation
Write this down, Heather.
And is our process here now that we're going to, as a board, vote to ask the city or begin the process of giving it back? Is that what we're coming to a resolution on?
What did you do?
We're just an information sharing, I don't think we can.
Right, we're not gonna vote.
Okay.
We can't.
Can I make a motion to add action item 7H,
I'll second it.
returning Southeast School to the city?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thought that one thing that came up during the budget meeting was the notion of us trying to look at different ways to address the special ed issues, and there was a theoretical possibility of maybe using that as a special ed facility.
Excuse me, I'm not sure speaking. Can you speak up, please?
Sorry, it's Jess. I'm too quiet.
At the moment, yes.
Yes, okay. I'll do better. I mean, that was one thing, because I think we like the idea of trying to develop more of our own programs to meet some of our special ed needs rather than outplacing. And if that's a facility that we already have access to, it might be more cost effective to upgrade that facility than to purchase or build another one, if that were to be a route that we went down. That was one idea that was mentioned, so something to think about.
I was unfortunately part of the original group that went through when they were trying to return that into a special ed pre-K facility. And after having walked through the building, seeing the way the rooms were laid out, what would be required to basically add 3 additional classrooms by eliminating the only indoor play space, the gymnasium, the only exterior play space in the parking lot. Not exactly conducive. And the backside of the building is basically abutting other households. So there's not any possibility to expand the building itself in any direction. If we want to look at building additional programs within the framework of the school district, I'd rather see us look at what areas and facilities we already have that can be expanded on, rather than looking at taking a building that really was not designed with any of today's needs in consideration, particularly those with special needs students who have an additional set of requirements. And if we're going to do that, let's consider doing it on a significant enough scale to make it cost effective, to add back a teacher at $85,000 plus $20,000 for their benefits package, and a para at $25,000 plus $25,000 for their benefits package. Every time you start adding in staff, you're looking at, on average, $160,000 for 2 staff members, because you have one special ed teacher with 1 para. And you start adding in multiple paras, multiple special ed teachers, you very quickly get to $1 million. So you really need to take a look at how many students we can benefit and how to maximize that if we're starting to look at bringing it back in-house. Because that is a huge long-term liability we're putting on the taxpayers.
I was here actually when they let it go, and that was the reason they didn't keep it in Torrington, is because it was cost prohibitive to upgrade it. And it was originally housing high school students, so it'd be a massive renovation to do pre-K. But I would absolutely recommend that we look at some kind of in-house programming, but we have to make sure we have a staffing, if you also administrative supervision, if you went into special ed, and there's just so many costs associated with it. So I would really like to explore the cost effectiveness if we're going to decide to keep it at all. Because right now it could be a liability to us.